Hi, everyone. I am Juliette Hyland, and I am an author of medical and contemporary romance writing for Harlequin, Mills and Boon. And last week, I turned in my 20th book for them, and I don't have an agent. I've never had an agent. I didn't get into traditional publishing with an agent. I joke that I keep running around the back door and waiting for someone to find me and tell me, "What are you doing here?" But the truth is, you can traditionally publish your books without an agent. And so I'm going to tell you how. And spoiler alert, it is not just romance books. So if you are writing in a different genre, stay tuned to the end because I'm going to give you some resources for where you can publish fantasy, paranormal, and some cozy mystery, even. So stay tuned, and here we go. Okay, so what is the back door that I snuck in? It is absolutely not a back door. That's a fun joke that I tell, but the truth is that in 2019, Harlequin ran what they called a medical blitz. And what this was is it's for their medical line. You had to submit a single chapter and a full synopsis. And they guaranteed you feedback by the end of the month, which in the publishing world is absolutely unheard of. Had I ever written a medical romance? No. At that point, I still thought I was a historical author. That's a story for a different time. But I figured, ooh, I have to give it a go because how often do you get guaranteed feedback in 30 days? So I quickly came up with a story. My kids were actually watching Fuller House, and then they started watching Full House, and they asked me what happened to Michelle in the story. I was like, oh, I don't know. And I went looking and saw that the Olsen twins had just a terrible time in the industry, like many children that we are finding out now that we're in the public eye and on Nickelodeon and all those types of things. And so they completely abandoned acting as soon as their contracts were up. They're now fashion industry moguls. But what I thought of was what if instead of going into fashion, if one of them had gone into medicine? And so that was where my book, Unlocking the Ex-Army Doc's Heart, came into play. And so I wrote up the first chapter. Annie Masters is a former child actress, and she literally turns 18 and walks into a army recruitment office, becomes a medic just to get away from her stage managing mom. And the hero in the story is kind of a regular on what it's not called the Dr. Oz show, but it's kind of along that lines. And so I set them in Alaska, and I thought to myself, what would happen if I forced them together, snowed them in, this woman who completely and totally ran away from the industry, and this man who wants nothing more than to kind of be in the spotlight because of some things that happened to him. And I sent that chapter and the synopsis in, and they really liked it. And so they sent back, the only feedback I got from the Blitz was write the story. Which was great because then I had to get it done. So I wrote it. It went through multiple rounds of revisions. So the first, what you could read if you picked up Unlocking the Ex-Army Doc's Heart is not the same thing that I turned in. It's not even close. Rafe needed some real work. I actually have back here behind me a reminder, no unlikable heroes, because yeah, it was something that I really struggled with early on. But eventually they offered me a 2-book contract, and Unlocking the Ex-Army Doc's Heart came out in the early part of 2020. And then I finished my second book, which was Falling Again for the Single Dad. And they offered me another contract, and then another, and then another. And I just kept going. And now I write for 2 lines. So I write for the medical line, but I also write for what's called romance or the true love line. My very first book for them came out actually this year. And that book was How to Win a Prince. I'm getting confused because the second book in that series is coming out here in a couple of weeks, and that's How to Tame a King. And that is completely over the top. He literally has a princess lottery where he draws her name out of a glass bowl that he made. It's completely different than the medicals and so much fun. So Harlequin runs blitzes for each of the lines. Well, not each of the lines, but they run blitzes for the lines when they need authors for them. So I really suggest watching the Write for Harlequin blog space. So it's just writeforharlequin.com. Check it out in the description because there will be a link there. But that will give you kind of an idea when something is coming up. But Harlequin is not the only romance game in town if you don't have an agent. So let's talk about a couple of the places where you can go if you don't have an agent. So first, I want you to understand this is not an exhaustive list. These are the ones that I personally know of or that I have colleagues that write for, so I know that they don't require an agent. You can absolutely have an agent and your agent can pitch to them as well, but these couple are ones that you don't have to. So like I said, Harlequin. So submittable.com, if you go to submittable.com, and I'll put that link in the description as well. And that will get you, there's Harlequin has a whole section on there, and each of the lines is spelled out. And there is a new Afterglow line as well that's releasing like 4 books, I think, a month. That one's very like spicy. They actually have the cartoon covers if you like cartoon covers. But Afterglow is the newest line that's in there, and it kind of like walks you through what the requirements are for each line because this is category romance. And so you do have to hit very specific things for the lines. There's also Carina Press, and that is Harlequin's digital imprint first. And that also, if you are a paranormal author, that is where they do some of the paranormal romances. So right now Harlequin does not have a line to do paranormal romance, but Carina does. And I've seen many people that are doing digital imprint through them that are doing digital first for like the paranormal with Carina. I also want to point out, because I do write for both of them, that both Harlequin and Carina are open to LGBTQ plus couples. So if you are thinking, oh, okay, well, I might want to write for them, but I write male male, or I write women loving women, totally fine. Not a problem. They're actively looking for more. So don't let that hold you back by any way, shape, or the imagination. The other place that I know of for this is Entangled. Entangled also has some categories, but they do some stuff as well with non-category lines. If you read the Crave series, which I haven't read, but they did do the Crave series. That's one of the ones that they have as one of their big sellers. But they have a whole list of lines and things that you can submit to as well if you don't have an agent. And finally, Thule. And I specifically want to mention Thule because Thule is really good at getting their books into made-for-TV movies, particularly their Christmas books. It's a personal goal of mine. One of my colleagues, Scarlett Wilson, her book, The Jingle Bell Bride, that she wrote for Thule, also got turned into a TV movie, I think also called The Jingle Bell Bride. And so that is a really good option if you're wanting Westerns, because Harlequin doesn't publish many Western, well, they don't publish any Westerns except in their Heartwarming line, but it's not as Western, it's more small town focused. Thule does have Westerns that they publish. So if you are big into cowboys and you have a cowboy hero you want to write, absolutely you can look at Thule. They're an excellent publishing house. I know that there are more romance. I just don't have a lot of experience with the other ones. So I'm going to direct all of you guys over to Bryn Donovan's blog. I'll put the link down below for her. She did research a little while back on the best publishers that didn't require an agent for romance, cozy mystery, and science fiction and fantasy. She has their 3 separate blogs. Each one of those posts has, I think, at least 5, and many of them have significantly more publishing houses that you can put into. So please go and check out Bryn's blog. I will put a link to the 3 separate ones down there. But also, if you're looking for writing inspiration, Bryn used to be the publishing acquisition person at Hallmark when they started publishing side of the house. Now she's a freelance editor and she's writing her own books. She's got a Night at the Museum story coming out. That's the Night, like Knight at the museum. can't wait for that to be out. It may be out now. I'll have to look and see. But she puts out a lot of really good resources for writers in general. She has prompts that you can use. She's an industry insider that knows how things work, and so her blog is incredibly informative. So give that a go. And like I said, I have now turned in 20 books for Harlequin. I do not have an agent. I haven't looked for an agent. And if I can do it, you can too. So remember that the answer to every unasked question is no. So give it a go. And if you do go ahead and go through the traditional publishing house and you don't get an agent, let me know because I want to cheer you on. So thanks.